And then through my slides. All right, everyone is seeing my slides, PowerPoint? Okay.
Yes.
So we want to welcome everyone again to Environmental Fridays. It is personal. And this is our 8th episode, and you will hear about our lineup here pretty soon for this exciting episode. If you want to find out more about Environmental Fridays and our schedule and speakers bio for the entire year, both this semester and next, we have our link at the bottom and a QR code that you can use to access that information. So I've been this semester, I've been having us sort of contemplate a little bit, meditate, if you will, a little bit on this photograph because it's an iconic photograph taken by an Apollo, I think it's Apollo 8 astronaut. It's called Earthrise. In the foreground, you see the moon, the surface of the moon, and that blue planet back there, that's us, that's Earth. It actually was one of the triggers that encouraged persons to become more environmentally conscious. It triggered environmental movements, and also Earth Day, the establishment of Earth Day. And so I just kind of want us to think about it for a bit, reflect on it, because I think from this photo is many of the reasons why we want to be both aware of the environment and take action. We want to, in this series, make sure that whatever education and awareness we get from Environmental Fridays is translated into action and engagement. So we don't want to just hear stuff and go home. We want to make sure that we turn this into action. Today, I have the honor of introducing my co-host, who is my cousin, Ivana. Is my cousin. I'm so proud of her. And it's also very special for her, I think, because in fact, she's a freshman environmental science major at the University of Chicago. So I'm pretty sure she'll be focused and tuned in to what our speaker has to say today. So Ivana graduated from Tron High School. Some of her pastimes include playing the piano, violin, tennis, painting, and drawing. And she also has her mom here with her on board to encourage and to admire her daughter. So thank you so much, Ivana, for being with us today and being our co-host. So your first duty is coming up to introduce our special feature speaker for the 5 or 7 minutes.
All right, so our special feature speaker is Samantha Nellis. She started her career with a Bachelor of Science and Biology from Northland College, which led her to the University of Wisconsin in Green Bay, where she earned a master's degree in environmental science and policy. She is currently the director of the water program at Huron Pines, an organization she became a part of in 2019. She is also the Michigan project lead and a member of the steering committee for the multinational Lake Huron Forever initiative.
All right, thank you, welcome, and you can now, Samantha, you can now upload, share your,
Is that
We're seeing your notes still.
okay?
Full screen.
Because these people realize that we remain relentlessly focused on securing the
How does that look?
That looks good.
All right.
Very
Yeah. Hi,
good.
everyone. Thanks for having me. Yeah, I'm Samantha. I'm the water program director at Huron Pines. I'm originally from Minnesota and moved around a bit and felt the Great Lakes calling me back. So I was really excited to move forward in my career at Huron Pines, and now I'm based in Gaylord, Michigan, at the heart of the Great Lakes. So today I'm gonna talk a little bit about Huron Pines, where I work, and then introduce you to the Lake Huron Forever initiative. So yeah, Huron Pines is a conservation nonprofit. We're serving northern Michigan. We work a lot in northeast Michigan, but really throughout the basin of Lake Huron, and even further sometimes throughout the Great Lakes Basin. We have about 21 full-time staff with various backgrounds, and we work around these core program areas: healthy water, protected places, and vibrant communities. We're in our 50th year this year, which is very exciting. And we're just moving forward on our vision to have conservation driven by engaged, empowered communities. We know that we can't do it alone, and transformation is needed in our human population that acknowledges our place in the natural world and builds a sustainable future for us. So in addition to a lot of on the grounds work, we do fill the role of leader, coordinator, convener of several large landscape partnerships. A few of them listed here. It's often tricky to figure out what scale to focus efforts on, but we've found that this regional landscape scale really helps us to reduce fragmentation on the landscape and improve coordination and cooperation through conservation partners, agencies, communities. And a lot of these are centered around specific geography, habitat, or some other piece of identity that really provides that sense of place. So the one that I'm talking about today started out as part of a greater Great Lakes initiative. The Council of Michigan Foundations and the Great Lakes Protection Fund put a call out for a Great Lakes One Water partnership. And across the 5 Great Lakes, 27 community foundations, raised their hands and volunteered to lead these up and form 6 regional teams. So there's 2 for Lake Michigan. So ours on Lake Huron, as you can see, is the only by, both sides. We have international support there. And, I think this is just a good precursor to show that this is, bigger than one lake, and there's these efforts going on throughout the basin. So looking at Lake Huron Forever specifically, it was officially founded in 2019 with community foundations on both sides of the lake. And we're really moving to advance water quality protection and healthy, sustainable communities on both sides of Lake Huron. And I do think that this, foundation with the community foundations is an important one. It wasn't started by a conservation partner. It was really these community-focused organizations indicating that protecting water and the Great Lakes, is directly impacting, health and well-being and the future vibrancy of these communities. So that's something that we use as a guiding principle for our Lake Huron Forever work, and continue to work at that international or multinational scale when you consider the United States, Canada, our tribal nations, and First Nations in Canada as well. So those community foundations can continue to lead and serve on our
nice stuff like public resolution, things that
all right. But we have a lot of partners, so this is just a snippet. I won't get too detailed here, but it's grown, and we have a lot of great people working on this initiative throughout
tell
the
her
Lake
if
Huron
she wants to,
Basin.
she can bring y'all in. But let me come over there and see why hers ain't working.
All right. So I think an important aspect of a landscape conservation partnership like this is to have a framework and a mission on how we do our work. So ours is really encapsulated by this engage, activate, sustain model. So a series of actions and programs that when combined really are at the core of what Lake Huron Forever is. So initiating dialogues in communities about the resources they need to take action. This could be, you know, assessments, inventories, linking them up with programming, activated, you know, really get it going deep on engagement, planning, and actually on the grounds projects. And then a few different ways that we work to sustain these things. So I, you know, don't have a lot of time here to dig into this, but here's, you know, a couple examples of planning projects in our communities with community leaders and you know, neighborhood ambassadors and local champions. We can link them up with technical assistance. We do a lot of projects. So here's a few land protection projects right there in the middle, a large area of the Lake Huron coastline that was put into permanent protection, dune restoration, and then green stormwater infrastructure. And I think it's interesting to note that almost all of the communities that are involved in this don't have to regulate their stormwater. They're too small to be under some of those guidelines. So it's all voluntary. So we work with them to get to that point. And to sustain this work, we have a program called the Lake Huron Forever Pledge, where communities can show their commitment to Lake Huron, and they can build this commitment right into their municipal planning and future efforts. So it provides this pledge and also a roadmap. And so far we have the city of Augrey, city of Bay City, and then 3 municipalities in the Alpena area, city of Alpena, Alpena Township, and the county, which we're really excited about. And they're really cruising through these roadmaps and getting a lot done. So it's been a very energizing program as well. Yeah, this is just to say that we just updated our action agenda, and that forming that framework, tracking progress, and keeping people is really important to keeping people and partners engaged in a, you know, large multi-dimensional partnership like this. If anyone here would like to get involved, I'd suggest going to lakehuronforever.org and signing up to get on our newsletter. We do twice a year have peer-to-peer learning circles that are virtual. It's a great way to meet people and learn from one another. And then we do have an annual One Water gathering, which will be in the Saginaw area, Bay City this year, or not this year, next year. And that's in person. So
okay.
There's the website and my contact info if you have any questions.
All right, thank you very much, Samantha. And we will hold our questions for you until the end. But thanks for helping us to highlight what's happening here in Michigan in the Lake Huron area. So next, I will, let's see. Next, we will have, okay, so we could now have our introduction for our guest speaker, our main speaker for today.
All right, so our main speaker for today is Jessica Penrose. She began as a political science major at Friends University and then transitioned to University of Oklahoma, where she earned both a master's in human relations and a master's in international relations. This led her to become the program coordinator for the Environmental Policy and Management graduate program at University of California, Davis, where she's now the director of said program.
All right, very good. So Jessica, you could go ahead and put up, share your screen.
All right, can everyone see my slides?
Yeah, there you go.
Okay, perfect. So thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here this morning. I will say if I get a little mixed up on my words, it is 6 a.m. in California, so give me a little grace this morning.
We will.
As Giovanna mentioned, I'm the director for the Environmental Policy and Management program at UC Davis. So we are a master's only program at this time, and our main mission is to train the next generation of environmental leaders. So I work in a team of 3 people. We have a faculty chair, Dr. Tyler Scott, and then a program coordinator who's also named Jessica. We each have very specific things that we do in our roles. So Jessica Chalfin is very student facing. She's advising students on classes and degree progress and that good stuff. As director, I manage our external partnerships. That's something that's a really large part of our curriculum, and I'll talk about that in a little bit. And then our faculty chair is kind of our liaison with the Office of Graduate Studies. We're making adjustments to curriculum and procedures and policies, and he leads those initiatives. And we've also been considering expanding into a PhD program. And so our faculty chair is leading that initiative. So a little bit about myself. As Giovanna mentioned, I did my bachelor's in political science. My intention at that time was to go to law school. My husband and I were living in Kansas at that time. And then we actually, he was in the military. We got news that we were moving to Germany. So I decided to pivot, and instead of going to law school, I decided to go to graduate school while we were stationed overseas. I did my coursework from the University of Oklahoma. There's several actually universities who've got like satellite campuses overseas on military bases, so that active duty military members and their families can still access education while they're gone. So University of Oklahoma flies out your instructors to Germany, and you do kind of accelerated classwork. And I decided to major in human relations and then international relations. During that time, I began working at the education center on base. So I had never intended to go into education, but it could be difficult for spouses to find jobs while living overseas. And so, I got into it, and I actually found that I had a knack for it. I really enjoyed scheduling classes and talking with all the instructors and having, advising relationships with the students. And so I eventually transitioned from part-time site coordinator to an academic advisor as a contractor with the Air Force. So I advised airmen and women on their progress towards their associate's degree, and eventually, subsequent degrees if they wanted to do that. And then we moved back to the US, to California. So I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. If I could stay in academia, or if I wanted to try to go back to law school, or if I wanted to pivot and do something else. Ultimately, I had an interview at UC Davis. I applied to be the graduate program coordinator for this program in environmental policy and management. It was a brand new program at that time in 2017. I had always been very interested in environmental policy. I did take several, what was offered at that time in Kansas, there were some sustainability classes and just history of environmental policy. So I did take some of those while I was pursuing my bachelor's degree. And I got the job at UC Davis. So it was really exciting to be coming into a brand new program. You know, I was still considering going to law school. You know, once I kind of got to UC Davis and realized that that was the place I wanted to be, that there's so much research and there's so much going on, people who are so passionate about the environment and about making the world a better place, you know, that I may eventually pursue further education, but we'll have to see for now. I served as the program coordinator for 4 years, and then our director left, so I applied and I was able to secure that position, which was very exciting. And so I moved from more student facing to external facing. I'm managing projects and grants, and my daughter just woke up, so you'll 1 second. So just to give you a little bit of information about what I do. I oversee our program coordinator. I'm making sure that we're all on the same page for advising. We oversee recruitment and admissions and scheduling, and there's a lot that goes into running a graduate program, or I'm sure, you know, undergraduate departments as well. I oversee our budgets, mostly manage our external relationships, and then I coordinate all of our experiential learning. So our program offers a policy clinic where our students work with external organizations for 5 months. So as you can imagine, that takes quite a lot of coordination to get select projects and you know, organize a working relationship with these orgs. Our students also all do internships. So we have several contracts with state and federal governments where we place students with them to do an internship. So I manage most of that. And it's really exciting. So I get to take my skills in organizing and planning and relationship building and apply it to a program where, you know, our students are going out and they're making a huge difference in this world, and they graduate and they're going off and doing incredible things. One of our alumni is the deputy director of legislative affairs at CalRecycle, you know, so they're making California's policy on recycling, which is awesome. And so it's very fulfilling in that way. And, you know, while I don't have a background in environmental policy myself, it's something that I've had to take the time to kind of get up to speed, right? To be able to talk to these organizations about their projects and kind of know a little bit about, you know, whatever we have on our plate at that time. So I talked to Dr. Murray, and you know, he was saying that there's this audience is we're kind of talking to students, right? So I wrote a slide about what I wish somebody would have told me when I was a student. And my biggest piece of advice is to do as many internships as you possibly can. When you graduate, it can be tough to find job opportunities, and even, you know, graduating from graduate school, it's tough. People want to see that you've got experience in addition to your coursework. And so as a student, you know, as much as people can, right? I know it can be really hard to balance schoolwork and maybe another job and an internship, but it's so valuable. I also recommend to students to network and put yourself out there. As a student, people really want to help you succeed. And you know, most of the time people are so kind, so just put yourself out there and make some connections, and eventually they really do pay off. Another piece of advice is to take advantage of events and seminars and classes and talking to professionals and hearing their stories, right? Just like this, it's so valuable to understand where people come from and be able to learn from them. Environmental policy is so interdisciplinary and intersectional, and there's many opportunities to, you know, learn from other people. And, your path might be different than you envisioned. So just be open to new experiences. So I'm going to pivot a little bit, and we're going to talk about why should a student pursue graduate school, and what should you be thinking? These next few slides are really geared for students who might be first gen, who don't have anyone in their family who pursued graduate school. I was a first generation college graduate, so when I was considering grad school, I really didn't know where to start. And so we feel, as a program, we feel it's really important to be able to provide some of this general information for students. So a big question to ask is, does your future career require an advanced degree? Will it help you promote? Will, you be eligible for higher pay? Because it is an investment of your time and your money. And so you want to make sure that it's actually, for something that will benefit you in the future, other than the knowledge, right? Having the knowledge is, of course, incredibly beneficial. And I think that the other biggest thing is handling the workload and the balance, because grad school is different than undergrad. I can speak for at UC Davis, right? So our students are really doing more reading and writing and discussion instead of busy work. So it definitely requires students to take the time and really dive into the course material to be able to have productive conversations about it inside the classroom. So we talk about, grad school being more than a diploma, and we frame this for our students at orientation. A lot of what we recommend the students place priority on is outside of the classroom, right? It's all a balance. So they have opportunities to pursue professional development by attending seminars and interacting with faculty and other professionals, right? Networking. There's a lot of chance on our campus to make a difference, right? Students can work for our Office of Sustainability, and they're actually, some of our students are helping draft a UC climate action plan for UC Davis, and it's actually in coordination with the other UC campuses in California. And there's a lot of opportunity to do some great work and get recognition for it. Some of our students work to publish papers, or they're doing other really cool, like, visible things. We had a group of students who went to the Grand Canyon with an eco-geomorphology class last year, and one of them was featured a quote in the New York Times, which is so cool. So there's lots of different opportunities at grad school. And choosing a program is important because not all programs are the same. So, right, it should be based on students' passions and motivations, but you're not also relegated to pursuing, like, obviously I did my degree in international relations, and that's not overly related to environmental policy, but here I am. So that's part of it, but you're not kind of stuck with that either. It's important to keep your career goals in mind, and as part of that, you consider what's important to you. So do you want a program that you're going to do research and your own thesis and you're going to own that work, right? Or do you want a professional program? We consider ourselves to be a professional program. Our students do not write a thesis. They're not doing research unless they're pursuing that on their own. It is actually not part of our curriculum. And so, they have other things that they're doing instead. They're kind of creating a portfolio of experiences that they can point to when they graduate instead of research. It's important to make sure the program fits your lifestyle. So, for example, at UC Davis, none of our graduate programs are online, except for maybe the MBA program. Everything is in person. And so maybe an online program fits your needs better. There's pros and cons to both. Considering finances, coming from out of state to like a UC or California State University comes with out of state tuition, and that could be a lot of money. So those are important things to consider. And I highly recommend that students talk to program coordinators and current students and former students of a program that they're interested in. The students will have an entirely different perspective of the program than, say, I do. as an administrator. And the alumni will have a different view than the students because they've been out of the program and they can see on the back end maybe some things that they value now that they might not have then. So it's important to get like a well-rounded consideration of a program. And then talking with faculty. Because these are the people you'll be working with, right? They're your advisors, they're people you'll have classes with. And so it's important to make sure that it's a good fit for a student. So just really quickly, I'm going to go through these slides pretty fast. I know most of you are from Michigan. So UC Davis is very close to Sacramento, and kind of in between Sacramento and San Francisco. So our main campus is here in Davis. We've got a health campus in Sacramento itself. Sacramento is our state capital. So there's a lot of state organizations who frequently work with UC Davis. And so it provides a really great opportunity for our students to get involved in some really cutting edge environmental policy. California, we like to think we kind of lead the way sometimes in regards to environmental policy for our state. And there's a lot of different types of policy, right? So we really struggle with wildfires is a huge problem here, and air quality and all of those other things that are part of that. So there's some opportunities to work on some really unique problems. And then our school, we are ranked #1 in the nation for ag. We're actually part of the College of Agriculture and Environmental Sciences, ranked #1 in the nation for campus sustainability. So they have a whole office of sustainability, and they're doing a lot of really great things. So it's just a really great place to be because the whole culture of UC Davis is whether you're in communications or you're in an environmental science program, people care. And, the campus really makes an effort to make it like a sustainable and inclusive and diverse place to be. So now I'm going to get into our program specifically. So we're training the next generation of environmental policy leaders. And the ways that we do that, right, is there's kind of several big things. So we recruit students from diverse backgrounds. So you don't have to have a STEM degree to come into our program. We have students who come from anthropology backgrounds who come in, or maybe economics, engineering, political science. Recruiting a wide range of students only helps like the cohort have more diverse experiences and backgrounds, and it really provides an opportunity to hear things from a different perspective, right? Like the engineering students sometimes have totally different views and opinions than the students who come from like environmental science backgrounds. Our focus is on building quantitative skills and essential professional skills for our students. So during their time in the program, they need to take like a GIS class or maybe a programming class, stats for biosciences or research methods class. These things are all marketable skills. So, even for these undergrad students who might be listening to this, it's not too early to start building those skills either, because they're very sought after when students go to apply for jobs. And by the time the students graduate, our goal is they can integrate technical information into effective policy. So it's kind of like being able to take this, really complex information and boil it down to the most essential parts for policymakers. So part of that's learning how to communicate science, and part of that's learning how to write policy briefs. And those are things that they all get from our core curriculum. As I mentioned, our program is very close to Sacramento. We have smaller cohort sizes, so we have incoming classes between 30 and 40 students, which from my perspective is a nice size. We really foster the community between our students. It's not too many that you don't, it's kind of overwhelming, but it's small enough that students will be able to connect with each other, and the faculty and staff generally know all of the students' names. And I think that's just a nicer kind of vibe for graduate school personally. And another highlight is that UC Davis is interdisciplinary. So we operate on a graduate group model, and that allows students to take other classes from other graduate groups or departments. So they're not only taking environmental policy and management classes, they might be taking classes from economics or maybe from the law school or this business school. So there's kind of something for everybody in terms of classes. Just to give you an idea of what our program looks like, so we started in 2017, so we are a newer program. We're in our 7th year. We started with 7 students, and now we have 57. So we feel like this is a great number for us, 57 between our 2 cohorts at a time. We've got almost 100 alumni, which are still pretty involved in our program. Most of them stayed in this area, so you'll see them at events, and they keep in regular touch with us. We've got an external advisory committee, so we're able to connect students with working professionals. These folks are kind of well into their career, so sometimes they're directing state agencies, or some of them are retired, and we have a mentorship program with them, so our students are able to connect with them on a regular basis and learn from their experiences. We also have 22 faculty across several different departments on campus, including environmental science and policy, economics. We've got some in transportation technology, engineering. So we've got a pretty wide array of faculty. We are a 2 years master's program, and we have an accelerated 12-month option. So that option is very popular for working professionals who want to take a brief break from work, come get their master's degree, and immediately re-enter the workforce. It's tough, but it's, 12 months, can't really beat that. Students complete a comprehensive exam in our program instead of a thesis. And it's not really like a sit down, take home kind of exam. It's made up of these different experiential learning activities that I had mentioned earlier, and I'll cover in a few slides. Let's see. To give you more of a sense of how we're training these students, right? So we have many of these classes they take in their first year before they really start doing the experiential learning work. We feel it gives them a really strong foundation before they do start engaging with organizations. So they take a series of policy analysis classes, and each class has like a different lens that they're evaluating policy from. So in their first quarter, they're learning about climate change, and they're looking through policy analysis and natural resource management through a more ecological lens. In their second quarter, they're focused on economics. And then their third quarter, they're focused on analysis through environmental governance and sociological structures. They take a policy implementation class. It's really designed to be practical, not like academics. How do we think policy? How does this process work? But actually it's taught by somebody who works for our governor's office of planning and research. So she comes and teaches this class at nighttime, and it's very practically how does policy get done in the state of California. Students also take environmental law from an instructor who's an active attorney with the Department of Justice, and she works on environmental in their environmental division. So they learn how to, well, obviously the basics of environmental law, but this focus is on developing negotiation skills, which our alumni have stated is a huge help for them as they move into their careers. Environmental justice is something that's also really important in our program. The topic is weaved through all of our core curriculum. And when we get to our projects, it is a element of all of the projects that we do. We have an external instructor who teaches this course, and she's the director of environmental climate justice with the NAACP. So she is doing this type of work in her career, and she's phenomenal at it. So she's brought a really important lens into our program. Not just studying environmental justice, but actually seeing it and really litigating it. Our students are also able to specialize in a topical area of their interest. So many of our students pursue specializations in water resource management. Environmental justice is another popular one. We've got city and regional planning, food and ag. So back to the interdisciplinary nature of UC Davis, there's something for everybody. And then lastly, professional development. So students do a professional development seminar in their first year, And it's topically focused each quarter. So right now they're learning basic professional skills. One quarter they'll learn more about environmental careers and what can you do with this type of degree. And then they'll learn more about science communication. So talking about some of our experiential learning as part of our program. So this is, I think, what really sets our program apart from others. Our students do what we call practicum. It's essentially an internship. And this is where they applied all the coursework they've learned into a professional setting. So the students working on an individual project, it's usually completed during the summer between their first and second year. And they're overseen by usually me if I'm organizing the opportunity for them, and a faculty member. So we both give the student input on, how to develop the project out more. And, the faculty kind of helps with some of the more like topical specific things and parts of their project. So I have an example here so you can kind of get an idea of what students do. So this is a student who graduated last year. He worked with the California Ocean Science Trust because he was really passionate about marine science, and that's what he wanted to pursue when he graduated. And so he was able to advance a project working on like flexible management solutions for fisheries, considering climate change. And so his work was really actually critical for them. And he really set the stage for this organization. We've worked with them on several projects since. And he was able to, with this experience, get a job with the California Coastal Commission, which is exactly what he wanted to do when he graduated. All right, so then next we'll talk about our policy clinic. So this is where it's a capstone class. We have group projects, working with external organizations on a wide range of topics. So this clinic is overseen by an instructor. It runs January through June of every year. And the students kind of work as a consulting team. It's a really great opportunity for them to add more experience onto their resume and really take ownership of a pretty large project. I highlighted this project from last year where a group of our students worked with the Lake Tahoe Regional Planning Agency. And so their project was examining regulatory codes to support basically like a planning document for climate smart communities in Lake Tahoe. As part of this, they were able to take several trips up there, meet with their clients in person, and it was a really unique project, actually. The first one we've had where students actually went on site. We actually, this past week, just chose our projects to start this year. We'll be working with six different agencies, 3 state agencies, a federal agency, and then 2 nonprofits. So we're very excited to see how those projects all go. I think one of the coolest ones we received that we selected for this year is examining AI in the circular economy. So working with California Department of Recycling, and they have AI machinery at these different like recycling facilities. And so students will be examining how that technology could be used to sort materials, which is really interesting. So very important projects that usually have some important implications for organizations. So one of the most popular questions is, where do your alumni go? Which is a huge question to ask if you're considering graduate school. For us specifically, most of our students end up in state agencies, which makes sense given our location and proximity to Sacramento. We also have some who've ended up not in California, right? So we've got some students working for the US EPA. We have some students working for in Alaska, a few who work at nonprofits, some who work for for-profits. There's a really wide range. And there's a lot of different job titles, right? So environmental scientists, senior environmental scientists, maybe they're a planner or an air resource technician, or some of them have engineering classifications. Some do like financial analysis, or some are working in GIS. So there's really a lot of different ways that students can use this type of degree. And it's proven to be, pretty valuable based on our alumni feedback. Just highlighting a few of our alumni. Antonia graduated last year, and during the program, she began working with Rincon Consultants on a project for her practicum. And they were so impressed by her, and she really enjoyed working with them, that when she graduated, they offered her a full-time position as a planner. And so now she gets to travel to more rural areas of California as she works on planning projects, and she gets to really incorporate communities in those decisions. And I keep in touch with her pretty regularly, and she really enjoys it. So that's always best case scenario for our graduates. And here's Jim. So Jim also graduated last year. He had been working for land trusts for most of his career and decided to come back to school. And his goal was to get, a position with state agency, and he was able to do that. Based on his experience, he worked with the Department of Conservation while he was a student here. And when he graduated, he was able to get a job with California Department of Fish and Wildlife. He's also in this area still, so we see him occasionally, and he's working on some really neat things as well. So I'm going to pivot back. So for students who are considering graduate school, obviously funding is a huge question. And I had no idea when I was an undergrad how you pay for grad school. This stuff is going to be very specific to UC Davis, but you'll probably see some commonalities with other universities as well. So when we talk about funding, we talk about fellowships. And fellowships are essentially scholarships. They're money that you're given based on merit or academics, whatever, and you don't have to pay it back. We have several different types of fellowships we refer to here at UC Davis. Our program offers students money. We evaluate students at the time of admission, and then we decide, based on we have a rubric and criteria and rankings, and then we make decisions as to who we'd like to offer fellowships for. So oftentimes fellowships will come in the form of like a tuition and fee payment, and then a stipend to help support your cost of living while you're in graduate school. Our Office of Graduate Studies also has fellowships. They're more substantial. I think one of the last ones our students received was tuition and fees, and then a $25,000 stipend for the year. So being that they're usually more competitive. And then external fellowships are scholarships that originate from off campus that students apply for on their own, and then that money is used to support their studies. The dreaded student loans are another way students fund their degree, but you don't have to take out loans, but we do recommend students file FAFSA because they may be eligible for work study. So that is an important thing to still do. The most common way students fund their degree is through academic appointments. And so students can do several different jobs, right? Teaching assistant or TA. They could be a reader, which means they're just grading. They're not really helping with class discussions, or they could do research as a graduate student researcher. These positions on our campus and all of the UCs are unionized. So they all come with benefits. If the percentage of time is greater than 10 hours a week. So students who are in these positions have their tuition and fees paid for that quarter they're hired. They also receive health insurance and a salary. So it's the most common ways that students support themselves during school. Teaching assistant positions are more common than graduate student researcher positions. TAs have to be hired every quarter. They're hired by departments. Graduate student researchers are only hired by faculty when they've got money on their grants. So these are our main ways we interact with funding for students. Our job platform is called Handshake, and so students are able to see what types of jobs are available. If anyone is ever interested in applying here at UC Davis. So this is the kind of general information about applying, and we've got some things that are specific to us, and then some other things that you might see just kind of depending on where you apply to. So generally when you're applying for grad school, you're going to need a resume or CV. And we do really look at that like pretty closely. So definitely want to make sure that it's been reviewed by somebody else who can give you some feedback on there. Students must write a student statement of purpose and a personal history diversity statement. Statement of purpose and the personal history statement should be different, right? We don't, some students copy and paste the same essays, but it's our chance to get to know you. Why do you want to come to UC Davis? Why do you want to pursue a career in environmental management? Where do you see yourself going? And it's okay to not have all of those answers, but just have some ideas. And it makes it more personal. For our history statement, diversity statement, we want students to, tell us about their story, how they got to where they are now. And then we want to know what plans students have to make science accessible. And, moving forward, we need more voices at the table. So what are your plans to do that? Students also, for us, have to submit 3 letters of recommendation, but for really any program, you're going to need some letters of recommendation. And we recommend that students prioritize people who can write them a good letter, rather than being too focused on, well, I need one from my university and one from my job. It doesn't really matter as long as, the person can speak to your abilities. Transcripts, of course. Some programs require students to have a faculty, like major professor lined up. So these are more for research programs. It's not for us specifically, but there are other graduate programs who basically require you to have kind of somebody who's already agreed to take you on before you apply. Testing is another thing to consider. So GRE, GMATs, or LSATs if you're applying for law school. Our program does not require GRE or GMAT anymore, but some universities still do. And then, of course, an application fee. Our program has application fee waivers for students who apply, who they meet specific criteria, and all of that information is available on our website. And we try to be really transparent with our admissions timeline and what this looks like. So for us, we have a priority deadline of January 5th. I highly recommend students apply by this deadline because you're considered for admissions and for fellowships. We have a space available deadline later in April, but those students are not considered for fellowships. And so it's a really important distinction to make. We try to get our decisions to the Office of Graduate Studies by late January or early February. And then from there, students are notified of the decision. And it's all done via email now. So students are able to log into their portal mid to late February, and see their admissions decision. And any funding offers will also be directly emailed to students. So that's all I have for my presentation, but I'm happy to answer questions. My email is here as well, so please feel free to contact me or Jessica Chalfin. We're both happy to help.
All right. Thank you so very much. So
Thank
today
you.
we had Jessica Plus.
Yes.
Jessica.
Yep. I go by JP and she goes by JC to not confuse
Okay.
the students.
No, but I'm talking about your kid.
Yes. So my daughter.
Your daughter.
I was hoping she would stay asleep, but
That's
she's
all right.
used to mom being on meetings. So
That's all right. That's all right. So let's see, Ivana, do you have comments, questions that you want to lead us off with?
Yeah, I just had a quick question. I'm about to actually start walking to class at the moment.
Okay, that's cool.
But
That's cool.
but I just was wondering, how did you kind of locate those internships when you were doing your time with the internships that really kind of propelled you forward in your career and kind of solidified what you wanted to do?
Mhm.
And who were the most helpful people that you spoke to when accessing those internships?
That's a great question. So I'll caveat, when I was in college, I didn't do internships because I really didn't have anyone who told me they were so important, right? So now that I'm on the other side of that and I help students find these opportunities, there are so many. And there's in-person ones, there's remote ones. Usually most universities have some sort of internship and career center. That's what we call ours. But they'll send out newsletters. So, you're able to find internships that way, or ours has job and internship fairs. I'll also say we have a job board on our website. So even just go peek at that, because we've got ones from all over the country. A lot of them are from California, right? But and if you follow up with me separately, I'm happy to help provide more resources for you. There's so many job boards. You can think professional associations. A lot of times professional associations will have a student chapter on your campus that you can go access. And from there, you can access mentors or internship and job opportunities. I would say that most organizations who host interns realize the value of mentorship. And so it's easier to find a mentor when you're kind of connecting with professionals. It's really just all about making connections. You come to one of these, right, Environmental Fridays, and you meet somebody you find really interesting. Reach out and talk to them. Like I was saying, most people are really excited to help students succeed. So, but I'm happy to help you. So if you want to send me an email, please do.
All right. Thank you so much, Ivana. All the best
Thank you so
today.
Yes.
Thank you so much. I really enjoyed both of the presentations, and
Thank you.
again,
Okay.
thank you so much.
All right. Take care. Bye-bye. So Jessica, I have another question. So you guys have scholarships and stuff.
Yes.
Do they apply to international students? Because we do have, for example, University of Southern Caribbean in Trinidad is represented here online, and they, of course, may have students that might be interested in a graduate program such as yours. So is there scholarships, fellowships, whatever, for international students?
Yes. So we consider all of our students in our scholarship ranking, if they apply by our January 5th deadline. So I'll say as well, the amount of those fellowships varies each year based on how many students we want to admit, how much funding we have. We basically evaluate all of that and decide on amounts. The highest amount we typically award is an in-state tuition and a living stipend. So for an international student, they would still have the out-of-state tuition, but it would be significantly less than paying for both. So out-of-state tuition is about $15,000 a year, which is it's a lot. But there's other ways that other things we can help connect them with, try to connect them with academic employment and things like that to help offset those costs as well. So to answer your question, yes, international students are considered for fellowships and for academic employment.
Okay, so someone right now at the University of Southern Caribbean or any, other university internationally could go online and apply.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and we have, as I mentioned, so the application fee is more for international students, which I'm not really sure why they do that, but we do have a fee waiver. So for students who may qualify, I'll put the chat or the link in the chat to read more information. So for students who might qualify for that, I highly encourage them to apply for it, and then we'll notify them of our decision.
All right, sounds good.
Yeah.
Does anyone else have questions? You could unmute and ask your question. Anyone? Another question in the meantime is, you and I talked about, are there short courses, not necessarily in your program, but short courses offered by UC Davis in the area of environmental science and stuff?
Yes, I did forget to put that in my PowerPoint, but I wanted to highlight our continuing and professional education division. I'll put this also in the chat. So through this, you can take a variety of different classes. Okay. And there's GIS classes. I believe there's some environmental science classes. They also link through the online platform Coursera, if you've heard of that. And so you can take like UC Davis classes through this online platform, so you don't have to be in person. And
Okay,
so all of that information is on this website. I don't handle any of that, but I'm happy to put people in contact if they have more questions.
okay, very good,
Yeah.
very good. All right, other questions or comments? Let's see. Could unmute and ask questions or comments if not, so the internships that you offer
Mhm.
are things that are, are they research or are they mostly like policy? Because you did talk about research assistantships. What's the distinction there?
Yeah, great question. So for the internships that we usually organize for students are off campus. So I'll give an example. We put students every year with our Department of Conservation. And so those topics change every year based on what their organization's focused on. They often will involve research, but they can't just be research. So it needs to be research that's kind of informing policy, or maybe it's legislative tracking, or maybe it's helping build out a framework after policy has been made. So there's a lot of different topic. We leave it pretty broad because we want our students to be able to focus on something they're interested in. But we kind of just say it needs to have policy component or a management component to it. Often it will require them writing some sort of report or brief or analysis. Whereas like a research assistantship, they're working directly with faculty on a research project, which may or may not include policy. And so they can do that, but they usually don't use it to meet their internship requirement. Because we really want them to be engaging off campus, making connections, and it's not quite it's very valuable to do it on campus. But usually for our students to kind of move into the workforce, we've found that it's better for them to engage with off-campus organizations.
Okay, I see a raised hand. Vonda, you have a question?
Yes, I'm Ivana's mom. I'm asking on behalf of Ivana. She had to go to class. Is there a general timeline, or if you want to do a summer internship? So like when do they need to know to apply by December, or is it usually January, February for those students who want to do some type of summer internship or research
good question.
type of position?
Yeah, that's a great question. Generally, I see a lot of applications start in like February, March timeframe for the summer. And so that's when I would be on the lookout primarily. For our campus, at least, like research positions, they come across like all sorts of different times of year. So it's really about meeting and networking with faculty if a student's interested in doing research, because it's really up to the faculty if the student can engage or if they can hire them. And so the more connections they make, the better. But in terms of internships, so like, for example, students in our program, I'm happy to support them. So when they're getting ready to start applying, we can go over their resume and their cover letter, and we can, figure out where's the best place for them to be looking, what time frame they need to be looking. My general advice is earlier, the better. Like, you don't want to start looking in May for summer because a lot of organizations have already hired.
Right.
Thank you.
I
really, as a mom of a student who's interested in environmental sciences, I found both presentations interesting and illuminating, and especially with, Samantha's, just seeing how it applies to things we don't even think about, I thought was helpful. So Desmond, I'll probably try to jump on these a little bit more often.
All right.
You have a convert.
Okay, very good. So I do actually have a follow-up question for Samantha along those same lines. Samantha, are there summer research or just summer opportunities for students in your organization? Students at different levels too, high school, college, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, our more formal, program is we do run a statewide AmeriCorps program, which places typically 20 plus people, early in their careers throughout conservation organizations in Michigan. So there are those opportunities. Those are usually full-time. There are opportunities for, shorter term things like that. But yeah, I think there are a lot of volunteer opportunities, and we do have some partner organizations up in this area that also have internship programs. Specific to policy, I would recommend touching base with the tip of the Met Watershed Council. They kind of are policy partners up here.
Okay. So these opportunities are online somewhere, or could you send us?
Yeah, I can send some links, but
okay, that sounds good.
I do agree with, trying to find these internships, whether or not they're, formal too. I mean, it's great if they are on a resume, but, volunteer hours and taking the lead on projects in general, I know that was a big, very important piece of my master's program. So.
Okay, very good, very good. So other questions, comments? If not, we want to go ahead and thank our speakers, our special feature speaker, Samantha Nellis, and our main speaker, Jessica Penrose, for bringing us some really good information that we could all act on and benefit by. We want to thank you for accepting our invites and wish you all the best. We'll stay in touch so that we can get some of your information out to our students, our audience that's online as well. All right.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Have a great weekend. And we'll see you guys next time on Environmental Fridays. It is personal.
Thanks to both speakers.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.